Small town America, where people leave their doors unlocked, everyone knows everyone, and nothing bad ever happens. That is until a budding serial killer decides to make a college town their personal playground. Welcome back to Justice 4. We're your hosts. I'm Jackie.
I'm Sam.
Today's episode was submitted to us by Lindsay. So, thank you, Lindsay, for really testing my ability to dig for information on this one. Let me tell y'all, this was not an easy one to research. I was searching scanned, archived newspapers.
I love that for you.
There were hardly any photos for y'all. And the few podcasts on this that are out there, they couldn't even find a photo for one of our victims. But I think I found one of her. I am 99% positive I did.
That's a pretty good percentage.
So, I hope you're ready for this, because I definitely wasn't.
I'm happy you took this one.
So buckle up, buttercups.
Good job.
Because we're throwing it back to the 90s and heading to Michigan, where Lindsay would like to remind Sam that there is more to Michigan than Detroit. Like the Upper Peninsula. Or better known as the UP. Which is where today's episode takes place. The UP is connected to Lower Michigan by Mackinac Bridge, a 5-mile bridge that goes over a stretch of water that connects Lake Superior to Lake Huron. The UP is an absolutely gorgeous area that has basically anything you want. Forests, mountains, lakes, waterfalls, beaches, skiing, and of course a few universities, including Michigan Technological University in Houghton. The university sits on the Portage Lake Canal that runs into Lake Superior. The area wasn't super large. It was about 7,000 students at the university, so a little bit bigger than that in the college town, and not all of the students lived in town. They kind of lived in like the 30 to 40 miles surrounding it and drove in. So just to give you an idea of where we're at.
Thank you.
About 30 miles south of the Houghton area is Lance, Michigan, where 20-year-old Kathy Nankervis lives. A single mother to 2 precious little girls who were 2 months and 21 months. So, needless to say, she really had her hands full.
Yeah.
Kathy was also diagnosed with cerebral palsy, a condition that affects muscle movement, posture, and muscle tone.
She really had it rough.
Yeah.
Jeez.
It can affect your ability to walk and do every other day tasks. Because of this, Kathy couldn't work, and so she was on Social Security. She wasn't living a glamorous life by any means, but she was getting by. The evening of June 10th was probably like any other evening for Kathy. She made dinner for her daughters and put them to bed. And if you're a parent, you can probably guess the rest of Kathy's evening. While Kathy was laying on the couch, a 6'3", 250-pound man entered her house. Kathy stood 5'2" and weighed about 115 pounds. She was no match for him. He bound her with duct tape and carried her out to his car and drove her 35 miles to Lily Pond near the Portage Canal in Houghton. The man then began attempting to sexually assault her, but he couldn't perform. So somewhere between frustration and panic, he decided to hold Kathy's head underwater until she just stopped moving. Then a new wave of panic occurred when Kathy was just floating in the water, not sinking. So he pulled Kathy out of the water and began stabbing her in the back, thinking that this would make her sink into the water. The next day, on June 11th, Kathy is reported missing. I never found who reported her, but I believe it was her mother, Patricia, because I do see her name a lot in the articles. And this is where I want to take a second to say, I have seen things about her children had been left alone for an undisclosed amount of time, for a little while, but she is reported missing on June 11th. So I can't believe that they were unattended for that long, because somebody noticed she was missing and she wasn't going to work.
Yeah.
So police did suspect foul play in Kathy's disappearance, but they don't really have a place to start. There was no evidence. There was nothing to go off really, other than she just disappeared without a trace, leaving her leaving her wallet and her keys behind.
Yeah.
This is where I get a little mad.
Oh, no.
Because Lance is a small town of about 2,200. Kathy being a single mom of 2 children who have different dads, and on Social Security, it was said that she was often seen out with different men and just out in general. She was kind of looked down on, so there wasn't a lot of reporting being done about her disappearance, which unfortunately is common when it comes to anyone who doesn't live up to society's standards, which I think is bullshit.
I can tell you now, if she was in Detroit, they might care more.
Maybe. But she was someone's daughter, sister, mother, cousin. She deserves just as much attention as anyone else who would go missing.
Absolutely.
And like I said in the beginning of this episode, it was very hard to find information about the victims we are talking about today, especially Kathy. I've actually seen comments in different corners of the internet from Kathy's sister and cousin and other family members, but all the places I see these comments, I can't contact them or reply to them. And if I could, they're from 2016, from 2010. I mean, I don't even think they're checking these pages anymore. Yeah. And the main thing is about the lacking of information about Kathy is what I'm gathering, more so than the misinformation, although there has been some misinformation. So with that being said, I actually found some of these comments a day or two ago and rewrote this part about Kathy because I wanted to strictly stick to what I was reading in newspaper articles. So I wasn't putting words or movements into Kathy's mouth that were not reported on from the man who did it, from the police, or from her family. So that is my way to try to keep as much misinformation out of these episodes for your family. And on that note, I apologize if anything is wrong. And I would love to hear from you guys so that we can really tell everybody who Kathy was, because I do hear you in those comments saying she was more than this. You have things wrong. And I would love to hear about Kathy and the person she was and who you guys remember her as. So, I do apologize, but I hope I got a lot of that right. So, 15 days later, on June 26th, the Coast Guard received a call from some fishermen who were fishing in the Portage Canal. They reported a body floating in the water. When the Coast Guard went to check it out, they discovered the severely decomposed body of 20-year-old Kathy Nankervis. This was a shock for the Houghton police because there hadn't been a murder in about a century.
How long was she in the water for?
15 days.
Holy bojangles.
In fact, they had to ask around to see if anyone could remember the last time someone was murdered here. I mean, like, the older police, retired police people, the older people in the community, they really had to figure out the last time this happened. That's how rare it was. Unfortunately, because Kathy had been submerged in the water for 15 long days and the decomposition, the Houghton police were basically in the same boat as the police in Lance. No evidence, no leads. And also, I don't think either police department was really prepared to deal with something like this. The UP is a safe area. No one locks their doors. And nobody worries about anything. It's the UP. Okay, people move there to be safe.
I've never been there. But lock your fucking doors.
It's the 90s.
I don't care.
But still, the discovery of Kathy didn't really make headlines. It was just a blip here or there. So no one really changed anything.
Wait, it's the first possible murder.
But it didn't take place there. Murder. They just found the body there.
It doesn't matter. It's the first murder. Why wouldn't it be reported on more? Who would it? That is a reporter's wet dream.
Yeah. And she was just kind of a blip. Not even really like headline news. I mean, it was a bigger deal in the law enforcement community, and they were more like, oh my gosh, this is happening. But the public just went on living their life normally as if a body hadn't just been found.
Okay, deadass, I took a video protection class in high school. I was a sophomore, and I was taught reporters, this is what they live by. If it bleeds, it leads. So please.
Thank God I have heard that. But yeah, so nobody really.
So please look at me in my eyes and explain to me what the fuck.
I can't. I wish I could, because honestly, I'm glad you didn't research this one.
Oh my God.
So.
Could you imagine?
They're just. It wasn't front page news. I don't know how. Meanwhile, in Lance, you would think the discovery of Kathy's body would slightly change the community's views on Kathy's disappearance turned murder. It only changed a small fraction of people's opinions, but it was enough to raise her reward fund from 1K to over 2,500.
Oh, okay.
So, and that's an impressive number given the size of the town and their judgmental asses. So, we'll take it.
Yeah.
Police were leaning more on the side of Kathy being depressed and lonely in her life, raising 2 small children and not having much of a social life, or her going on a date with the wrong guy and it ending in tragedy.
So she stabbed herself? That's what they're trying to say.
That she either killed herself or she went on a date with the wrong guy and, oh no, she shouldn't have done that. Neither was really helpful for finding out who did this to her, but that was the vibe that was going on.
Okay.
So now I'm going to jump ahead 7 months.
Yeah.
To January of 1992, where 19-year-old sophomore Jodi Lynne Watts was living her best life at Michigan Technological University, where her dad worked as an administrator. Jodi was absolutely gorgeous.
Did you say 17?
No, 19.
19, I'm sorry.
We jumped 7 months ahead.
I'm getting my numbers confused.
It's all right. Her dad worked there as an administrator, and Jodi was absolutely gorgeous. She had dark brown hair, was petite at about 5 feet tall, maybe weighed 100 pounds.
Oh, good for her.
But don't let that fool you. She was very athletic. In high school, she ran track, was on the swim team, golf team, and ski team.
Hell yeah.
Varsity, all 4 sports.
Hell yeah.
So it's no surprise that Jodi continued to be athletic into her college years. Like I said earlier, Jodi was out here living her best life.
Uh-huh.
Because this year, she got to live in an off-campus apartment. Her freshman year, she had to live in the dorms. So...
I'm pretty sure that's still a thing that happens at college.
Yes. But it's exciting. So, Houghton has like a little twin sister city next to it, Hancock. And it's all just the same area. And that's basically what they considered the college town.
Okay.
It's small, safe community. Everyone knew everyone, and people left their doors unlocked.
Safe community.
And 19-year-old college sophomores felt completely safe going running after midnight, alone. In fact, it wasn't uncommon to see people out at all time of night. After all, it is a college town, no matter how small. This was still the vibe of the whole town 7 months after Kathy was found in the canal. Which is shocking because it was the first murder in almost a century. But I think that because she went missing in Lance, they viewed it as a Lance problem, and the body just got dumped here. And it's the vibe that is in all the articles. I know I keep using that word a lot, but it's the only way to describe
the shit,
how they just put off things.
Yeah.
And just, it was like a general consensus.
It didn't happen here. Her body was just put here.
Yeah, it just seemed like nobody was like worried or freaked out that there was someone in their community. This was another community's problem.
Also, she was a harlot.
Oh my gosh, I took that part out. Because literally, that's what they were considering.
They were calling her a harlot?
Basically, I've read like 3 different things that literally use that word.
That's wild.
But I also felt like that was what we had a bit of an issue with. So yeah, just, yeah, that's basically what they were viewing Kathy as.
Oh my goodness.
It was after midnight on January 21st, 1992, when Jodi decided to go for a run. She just couldn't resist that crisp 12-degree wintry evening waiting for her. Ugh. Side note, runners, why are you like this?
That sounds awful.
Why? So Jodi got dressed for the cold, then threw on her Letterman jacket and headed out to the town for a run. This was something she did often, so she knew her way around, and she knew there would be people out and about. As Jodi was running through town, a car drove past her. She thought nothing of it. Why would she? Little did she know, that car had pulled into a car park ahead, and as Jodi ran by, a man grabbed her and dragged her into the car park. She was no match for the 6'3", 250-pound man. He then began physically assaulting her before brutally raping her. After the assault was over, the man stood there, looking at an absolutely petrified 19-year-old Jodi. It was in this moment the man realized she recognized him. He asked Jodi if she was going to tell on him, but Jodi was in pain and shock and terrified. She was incoherent in her response, so in a panic and in fear of being told on, he pulled out a screwdriver and began stabbing Jodi over and over until he thought she was dead. Then he fled the car park and left Jodi partially naked, cold, but not dead like he had thought. Somehow Jodi was still alive. She had managed to survive the horrific attack. She then somehow had the strength to crawl 160 feet out of the car park and into the open before completely collapsing onto the cold snow. Around 2:45 a.m., a man was out riding his bike and found Jodi laying there naked, covered in blood, and barely alive. He covered her with his jacket and ran to get help. But he didn't have to go very far because the police station was only about 100 feet from where Jodi was laying. This man had the audacity to park in a municipal car park, pull Jodi inside, and leave her there.
I'm so fucking mad right now.
200 feet, over 200 feet from the police station is where he did this, and she crawled about 160 feet.
How do all of these men have all this fucking audacity?
I don't know.
Is it because they have pockets in their jeans?
I think it is.
I'm upset.
Unfortunately,
I don't like when you do it to me, though.
I know that was fun. Unfortunately, Jodi did not survive the attack, and she was pronounced dead shortly after arriving to the hospital. It didn't take police long to identify Jodi, thanks to the Letterman jacket she'd been wearing that evening.
Did he leave her clothes?
In the car park. They found her clothes over there, and that's how they learned that that's where the assault took place. Jodi's murder, unlike Kathy's, made all the papers. It even made it into the papers in Detroit. That's why I laughed when you said, if this would have happened in Detroit, I bet you they would have paid attention.
Mm-hmm. Lindsay.
Very quickly, a $1,000 reward for information about Jodi's death was announced, and within days, it grew to over $10,000, with donations from the community. The brutal and tragic death of Jodi rocked not just the Houghton area, but the surrounding communities as well. This was a small town where nothing bad happened. No one locked their doors, and people definitely didn't get murdered here.
I genuinely need you to stop saying that. Because clearly, that's a fucking lie.
So listen, this is the second episode I've done that to you in, and it's
know.
because every article I read, this is a safe community. Nobody locks their doors here.
How do you keep getting these small town ones?
I don't know. The university took no time at all making changes to help ensure the safety of their students. They made the call to have campus security carry guns. They encouraged students to start using the buddy system and very much discouraged females from walking alone after dark. The university even offered free self-defense classes. There was a vigil held for Jodi at the university, and it had a pretty big turnout and really showed the climate of the community. Most were scared and taking extra precautions, while some just seemed to go on about everyday life like nothing happened.
I have a question. Does her autopsy state if she died just from the wounds? Or was there more involved in it? Or do you have any idea?
I'd love to have an autopsy for either one of them.
Got it. I am wondering. I'm sorry for cutting you off.
You're good.
Jesus. I wonder if her laying in the snow, because I don't know how long she was in the snow for.
She was laying in the snow, and then, okay, you asked this question. I was wondering if I was going to go in this. There's two versions. There's a version where she is taken to the hospital and she dies at the hospital. And that is the most common version. That is a version that's in newspapers and other things. Mm-hmm. The other version is that she died in the arms of a police officer on that sidewalk and never made it to the hospital. That I have heard more in people correcting things or people who were there at the time.
Okay.
I saw only one newspaper article that had something about her dying on the sidewalk.
Okay.
So she did die from the stab wounds is what eventually did. Okay. But
I just don't know how long she was in the snow for. And
15 minutes, maybe 10 minutes.
Okay, that's not bad. Because I was going to say maybe hypothermia set in, even a smidgen.
Yeah.
Considering how cold it was. And then she was naked wounds on top of it.
Yeah, I mean, there could be a little bit of the other, but she wasn't out in the cold long enough exposed like that for that to really take over.
I wonder if he hit like an artery or an organ.
Her crawling out, pumping the blood faster, yeah.
And the adrenaline.
Yes.
Probably didn't help. Police
didn't even consider a connection between Jodi and Kathy. To them, they were two separate cases, which is wild considering there hadn't been a murder in this area for 100 years, and now you have two murders 7 months apart. Didn't occur to them it could be the same person. The police in Houghton, they had zero connection. Kathy and Jodi had completely different backgrounds, but police in Lance were having other thoughts. Once Jodi's murder had reached their papers, they wondered if there was a connection. Not to mention, people in both communities were wondering the same thing. Could there be a budding serial killer? The FBI and state police came in to assist with Jodi's case, and after going through 500 leads, there was nothing. Unfortunately, months and months go by with no break, no leads, no evidence. Nothing, causing both cases to essentially go cold. That is, until 18 months later on June 24th, 1993. At 2:45 a.m., a frantic Jackie Beaucamp called 911 to report that someone was breaking into her house. Police were not fucking around. They were there within 2 to 4 minutes.
Period.
Outside of Jackie's house, police found 38-year-old David Allen Goudreau carrying a bag. And as police began asking Goudreau some questions, they asked if they could look in his bag. David willingly handed him his bag, and they were shocked to open this bag and essentially find your standard kill kit.
Oh.
Duct tape, 3 knives, tire irons, ski mask, gloves, lube, and of course, a video recorder.
Oh, gross.
Then David led police to his 1985 Oldsmobile, where they found a handgun in his glove box. David was arrested. Then, unprovoked, unprompted, he fully confessed to the murders of Kathy Nankervis and Jodi Watts. This absolutely floored the police, mainly because they didn't think the two cases were connected, and they definitely didn't expect someone like David Goudreau to be confessing to these murders. They were in for an even bigger surprise when they discovered that he was connected to all 3 victims personally.
Oh, yeah, I can't wait to hear about this.
David Allen Goudreau grew up in the Houghton area. He even graduated from the same high school as Jodi, but that was, of course, like 20 years before she did.
Yeah.
David graduated from Michigan Technological University with a degree in forestry. After graduation, he landed a job with the Social Security Administration as an officer. Are you connecting it yet?
No.
Not to Jodi, but maybe to Kathy.
Yeah.
This moved him to Aurora, Illinois, where he was arrested for pulling a young woman off of her bike in the park and groping her boob. She managed to get away, and David somehow got off with a slap on the wrist, just a year's probation. However, he told his family and boss that he was just helping a young lady up from falling off her bike, and it was a big misunderstanding. So, David was, after his year of probation stuff, David was eventually transferred to Grand Rapids, Michigan. And he had nothing but excellent reviews for the next 10 years while in Grand Rapids. And we're going to touch back on that in a moment. Before being transferred back to the Houghton Hancock area where he grew up. David was married and had 2 sons. He was involved in the church softball league. His kids attended Christian schools. He was what they considered a pillar of the community. He would even go on a local radio show giving advice as a Social Security officer. And he was definitely the last person anyone expected to go around murdering people. David's job as a Social Security employee was helping people get set up with disabilities and other services.
He seemed so normal.
He was actually given a pretty big radius of about 40 miles that he was driving around to people's houses and helping them get set up. This is the 80s and 90s.
Security?
Social Security for disability benefits. You couldn't go online and do them. So not everybody living in all these areas could get to offices. So they had people, officers, who went out and helped.
Okay.
He was really working with some of society's most vulnerable. And not only that, he had their addresses and their trust, which is how he's connected to Kathy. She was one of his clients. She had just gotten set up with him. Jodi, on the other hand, wasn't one of his clients, but was his neighbor.
Oh.
So if the police had looked into overlapping people in Kathy and Jodi's life, they may have gotten a lead. For fuck's sake, if the FBI would have looked outside of Jodi's case, which I'm surprised they didn't. 7 months is what from Jodi's body, or Kathy's body being found to Jodi's murder.
And then 18 months
And then
between
18
Jodi
months.
to...
Jackie.
Yeah. I'm kind of surprised, honestly, because if you... Sorry, you guys are going to get a little bit of history here. Serial killers, typically, they start off slow. So I'm surprised.
We'll get there.
Oh. I'm getting ahead of myself.
And as for Jackie, his third victim, she was also Klein and David's. But Jackie was vigilant as shit. Like, he did not expect her. Like, he even says in a police interview that he did not expect her to hear him breaking in. And that, he hadn't planned on that.
Were her doors locked?
Yes. Like, because he had to actually break in. And
look what happens when you lock your doors, people.
He also said, I think I have this in here later, but I'm going to say it now too.
Oh.
That he told police that he brought the video camera with him to help sustain him longer, to see if it could sustain him longer this time.
Yeah, this isn't adding up for like a typical serial killer thing. It's really genuinely bothering me. The psychology degree in me right now is just
Let me keep
fuming.
When they searched David's home, they found items belonging to Kathy and Jodi, confirming that David was indeed telling the truth. David told police that he had waited for his wife and sons to be away on a church retreat, and that he brought a camera this time, so that hopefully this one would sustain him for a longer period of time. I knew I had that in there. Which is just disgusting on so many levels.
Yeah.
And when David's arrest was announced, everyone was absolutely shocked. Once it came out that Kathy had been betrayed by a person she should have been able to trust, and that she was just a vulnerable person who was taken advantage of, something that, in my opinion, should have been one of the first conclusions, everybody changed. Now, Kathy was a victim. Now it was a horrible tragedy. Now it was sad.
If you can't
and
tell,
that's what pisses me off the most.
If you can't tell, I'm upset.
Yeah.
I'm mad.
Yeah. Yeah.
Every victim is a victim.
No matter what. And deserves the same amount.
Proceed.
David initially planned to use an insanity defense. But after being evaluated by 3 different psychiatrists, he was declared competent to stand trial.
Yeah.
And at the last minute, David decided to plead guilty.
Oh.
When asked by the judge if he has reflected on his crimes, David responded with, "I've reflected on it for some time, Your Honor, in the word of God and in prayer. I felt I was influenced by satanic forces at the time of the crimes."
I need you to be so fucking for real right now. Are you kidding me?
No, I am dead serious. He dead ass looked at the judge and said that.
Okay. Did the judge buy this?
No.
Thank God.
In exchange for David pleading guilty to 2 counts of first-degree murder, the other charges he was facing, like first-degree criminal sexual misconduct, kidnapping, carrying a concealed weapon, and attempted breaking and entering, were all dropped.
Okay.
So instead of heading to trial the following week, David had his sentencing to look forward to.
Oh, yay.
David was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. He was also ordered to pay $10,000 for only Jodi's funeral. Let me say that again. Only Jodi's funeral. Which I think is pretty fucked up because it should have been split between the 2 of them.
Jackie,
David's wife, Kathy, divorced him and eventually changed her name. Sorry, I wanted to add that really quick. Go on.
Good for her.
Yeah.
Did you want to fight today?
A little bit. I'm not done.
Jeez.
Oh, can I make you happy for a second? It'll
on.
be fleeting, but it's a second.
Bring it on.
Kathy's mother, Patricia, decided to sue the Social Security Administration under the Federal Tort Claims Act, where she claimed that if David's supervisor would have done a bit more investigating into his employee's sex crime, it could have kept him from being in the position later on where he killed her daughter. Unfortunately...
You read that so fast. Let me retain what you just said to me.
Do you want me to redo that?
No. If his boss would have looked into him...
his sex crimes more?
He would have... Okay, we're good. I just had to...
Because they just took it at his word.
Yeah.
Yeah. Unfortunately.
You know what? This isn't a fun game.
Oh, is it not?
You can suck it.
She lost the lawsuit.
She lost it?
Yeah. The judge stated that what David did in his personal time was not to be held accountable by the government. So Patricia did what any mom would do. She appealed.
Period.
But she lost. Again. This time citing that agencies have broad discretion to police themselves and the investigation in Illinois was sufficient, is what the judge told her the second time. So basically, they're allowed to do whatever they want. They police themselves, and I can't do anything about this.
This is why we have people who claim to be they are pedophiles trying to turn it into like a religion or something. Don't do that, please. Gross.
So, Patricia, snaps to you. You really tried. Like, we think you should have won, though.
Next time, grab his dick and twist it.
She would have to.
Oh, I bet.
One, and probably the only good thing that happened here. The reward fund that was raised for Kathy ended up going to her daughters because no one gave any information leading to an arrest. So legally, it is their money.
Good.
Also, I didn't know where else to add this, but Grand Rapids definitely entered the chat once David was convicted. You see, they had a few unsolved murders from 83 and 84 when David lived and worked there. And they kind of seemed to match with his other crimes. It was determined that they weren't connected, but I'm not convinced Kathy was his first victim. Because like you were saying earlier, this escalated pretty quickly, pretty fast.
Yep.
And there was quite a few other spots and articles where other people also don't believe that Kathy was his first victim.
Yeah.
Because we have that boob groping incident, and his 10 years was beaming with good reviews out of Grand Rapids, which is why I suspect a little bit more that those cases might be connected. They just can't prove how to connect them to him, and he didn't admit to them. But I agree with you. I believe that there are other crimes of David's that we don't know about, which is why this case has the term budding serial killer. We only had 2.5 victims. I call Jackie a half victim because he didn't get to... If he would have gotten in there, she would have been a third victim.
For sure.
So that's why I do say that I agree. Budding, like, there is probably there's a podcast I listened to.
Yeah.
And she had quoted another podcast that has an episode of a unsolved murder or missing persons. I cannot remember which one it is. But she believes it could be linked to this.
Yeah.
So there are inklings. We just don't have anything solid. And he's never said anything else. But we do have him taking trophies from those two, which also kind of helps me along.
He took trophies?
Yes, because remember when they searched his house, they found items from both victims.
And for all we know, he could have others, but we don't
But they wouldn't know to look at it. I mean, his wife would be a good one to look at. For, like, because you know how sometimes they will, like, give...
I already tried to kill that little fucker earlier.
Okay. Because you know how, like, there has been serial killers who take jewelry and they give it to their wife or their daughter.
Yeah, that's disgusting.
So there could be things that nobody knows about.
Gross.
I said this was very hard to research. Newspaper articles, guys. I wasn't even in digital articles, really.
Just based off my personal research, not on this case, but on serial killers in general, they start off small because they don't know if they can get away with it. And then after some time, if things haven't progressed, like towards them, like if they're not getting caught, they're going to do it again. And then it becomes a hunger. It becomes this like thirst of needing to continue doing it. So you're going to see spaces, time where it's like long periods of time, and then it just gets shorter and shorter and shorter. And the fact that it was 7 months between them.
Let me explain the gap.
Yeah.
So he was waiting for his wife and kids to be out of town before the next one. That's why it was 18 months. He had to set up that church retreat. It's in there. He waited. He told police that he waited for his wife and kids to be gone on that church retreat before he did it, and that's why there was so much time between his two. Mm-hmm. And that's why he was trying to take the camera to sustain himself longer.
That's fair. With that, though, it's then also extremely rare for most serial killers to have a family.
It's about 50-50. I can give you like 7 right now.
Out of how many serial killers there are, though?
But pretty prolific ones.
I was going to say, if you think about all of the big serial killers that, like, big names, Jeffrey, John, other ones I can't think of.
BTS. Let's go with, God damn it, I just had his name in the front of my head. Israel Keys.
I'm also going to bring, what's her name? Charlene?
So we don't actually call him a serial killer, though. But here's the deal.
Yeah.
Let me go back with what you just said. So his move to Illinois, that is his testing. He is now out of his normal comfort zone where everybody knows him and everyone knows what he does. He is now in a new area where he can do this. Him grabbing that woman off that bike, she got away.
A child?
It was a young woman. It wasn't a child.
Oh,
but he grabbed her off her bike.
Okay.
Was groping her, and she got away. That's how he explained it off, is just, oh, I was helping her back onto her bike. Slept on her, but nobody looked into it.
Maybe that was his way of testing the waters to see what he could get.
That's what I was saying,
with.
that was his testing the waters, and then he was there for another year. He was on his probation, and then he got moved to Grand Rapids. And then he was beaming at work, because I don't think he wanted this to impose on his personal life. And that's why I'm like, Grand Rapids might have something there. They might have something, but they just don't have their missing puzzle piece.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying is, like, I'm agreeing with you. Like, yes, I don't think that he got to get far enough to actually check off all of our serial killer boxes, but we were very much on our way.
Yeah. It's just weird.
It's very weird. David is currently serving his life sentence at the Saginaw Correctional Facility in Michigan. Back into Michigan, the lower part.
Oh, he alive?
Yeah, he is still currently serving. So now is the time. Oh yeah, but like that's literally all I have on all of this. Absolutely. Yeah. I'm going to link where I found all the newspaper articles because I don't have a way to actually give you all those. I had to do a free subscription or else they wanted to charge me like $75 a month. And I was like, ridiculous. Nope, screenshot. Yeah. So, it's there. I have it. You can do the free thing. You can read all the things that you want to read on it. It's just, there's just not a lot of information. And it's just, we were talking about this because we also just recently did the Susan Smith case. And that happened the same time this case is happening. And there is clips, there's digital articles, there's so much news coverage. I have nothing but old newspaper articles. I don't even have digital versions. 2 things.
It's because we had Susan over here and we had OJ over here, and they're right in the middle up top, and they're just like, nah.
Yeah. And it doesn't help that only Jodi's murder made it out of the UP.
Yeah.
And into other papers. So yeah, just...
Or even made it into the papers.
Yes. So now's the time where we talk about if we got justice.
Ugh.
And the definition of the word, yes, we got justice because David is in prison for the rest of his life and cannot commit these horrible crimes against innocent people again. In terms of justice for these victims and not being forgotten, I don't believe we have justice. Kathy and Jodi deserve to be remembered for the wonderful young women they were and the lives they had ahead of them that were senselessly ripped away by a man who couldn't control himself. Our hearts go out to Kathy and Jodi's loved ones. And I think that both of them need a bigger spotlight on them and who they were. Because I've never heard of this before. And I was kind of shocked. Things sounded familiar. Things sounded like... But it wasn't this case. And I would love to learn more about Kathy. Because there's not a lot out there about her.
Yeah.
What do you got?
I wonder if her family was so scrutinized of whatever lifestyle she may or may not have had. And that's why they haven't
Yeah.
like, really tried to
Put it out, like, put her out there and the truth and all of that. Yeah.
Because
And I can see we are in the 90s.
Yeah.
This wasn't really,
Scandalous.
It was, and we weren't, it's not like it is today where you can share your story and you can share this and people have empathy and they are there with you and supporting you.
Yeah. And especially, no offense, but in small towns, you hear one thing, you're going to fucking run with it and be a judgy asshole. Sorry.
And that is what happened.
Yeah.
It's so unfortunate. Yeah, that's all I got.
I mean, I have a lot more I want to say, but I won't.
Yeah.
Because
this was a hard one. It's a really interesting one. I wish I could find more information. I wish I had autopsies. I wish that there was more court information available.
Yeah.
I went through all my hidey holes. I tried. And I mean, if you guys find something that I didn't or have something that I wasn't looking in, I would love it. Because I would love more information about this.
Yeah. Everything I want to say is mostly profanities and other things, but I'm trying to be more professional than that.
We're turning over a new leaf this year. Let's see how long it lasts.
We're not doing that.
Okay.
Just right now.
If you enjoyed today's episode, hit that like, follow, subscribe button so that you never miss an episode or seeing these beautiful faces. If you haven't already, head over to our website, justice4podcast.com. You can find all of our episodes. You can find resources. And also we have a place for you to submit case submissions. So if you have a case you want to hear about, if you have something like this that you don't remember and you want more information, we got you. Hopefully.
With what we can find.
Yeah.
We have limits too.
Yeah. But as always, like, follow everything on Facebook and Instagram and YouTube. We post sneak peeks and updates from episodes if we have new updates going on in the world, which there's a lot right now that you guys are about to be getting. I feel like every day I'm sending them a Snapchat of, oh my God, did you just see this?
Yeah, it's something new. I'm getting article after article after article. I love it. Keep doing it.
Oh, we love it. Keep doing it. Tag us. Especially go follow us on TikTok. Apparently we're hilarious over there.
Also, I really want to welcome all of our new listeners and subscribers. We've had so many new jurors come along.
Yes. Oh, should we tell them?
Oh, yeah. We named you guys.
We named you guys.
We named our fans.
You want to know what your name is?
The Jury.
The Jury.
Yeah.
So.
It's pretty fun.
It is. So, oh my gosh. Is the jury in or out on this one? Check it. Let us know on Facebook.
Yeah. So what was I saying? I got distracted.
We named them.
Yes, we named you guys. But we also want to thank all of you so much for finding us, sticking with us, watching all of our stuff, commenting, sharing, favoriting some of our videos to go back to later. We love seeing all of this. Genuinely. It's making us so happy.
And blowing our minds. But we love it.
We love it.
Thank you guys. We love you guys so much. And appreciate you for listening to us talk every week.
We're just a small little baby podcast over here. But we love you guys. And we're going to keep doing this. Regardless.
Yeah, we hope so. We love this.
Yeah.
And we love you guys.
Yeah.
So hello to all the new people.
Yes. Hello.
All right.
I got nothing further.
I got nothing.
See you guys next week. Okay. Love you. Bye.